Two people each have exactly $10,000, and they make one promise: they will not touch it for 30 full years. Same amount, same patience, same starting line. The only difference between them is a single decision made on day one. One picks the safe, familiar savings account. The other picks a broad stock index. 30 years later, they open the envelopes. Start with the safe choice, because it feels like the obvious winner. A typical savings account has paid well under 1% for most of the last 2 decades, often closer to 0.5% once the excitement of a good year fades. That sounds low, but surely 30 years of steady interest adds up to something meaningful. So let's actually run it and see the number. Here is what 3 decades of patience in that safe account actually produces. $10,000, compounding at 0.5% a year for 30 years, grows to about $11,600. Read that again. 30 years of discipline, of never spending it, of watching it sit there feeling responsible, and the account grew by roughly $1,600 total. It felt safe the entire time. But that $1,600 of growth hides something worse, because the number on the statement is not the number that matters. What matters is what the money can actually buy. And while the account crept upward at 0.5%, the price of everything around it was climbing far faster. There was a second force working against the saver the entire time, quietly and invisibly, every single year. That force is inflation. At roughly 3% a year, prices more than double over 30 years, so a basket of goods that cost $10,000 at the start costs well over $20,000 by the end. Line the account up against that, and the safe choice did not just grow slowly. In real buying power, the money you protected so carefully actually shrank the whole way down. Put a hard number on that loss and it stings. In today's dollars, the $10,000 you started with is worth only around $6,400 by the end. You did nothing wrong. You did not gamble, you did not spend, you did the responsible thing everyone praised. And still, more than a third of your real wealth quietly evaporated while you were told your money was completely safe. Now the other choice, the one that felt reckless on day one. The same $10,000 goes into a broad stock index instead, the kind that simply owns a slice of hundreds of large companies at once. Historically, that kind of index has returned somewhere around 7% a year after inflation. Same starting amount, same 30 years of patience, one completely different destination. Here is where that different destination lands. $10,000 compounding at about 7% a year, after inflation, for 30 years, grows to roughly $76,000 in today's buying power. Not $76,000 on paper that inflation eats away. $76,000 in real spending power. The reckless choice did not just beat saving. It rewrote what the same $10,000 was capable of becoming. Put both paths on one chart and the shape tells the whole story before a single word is spoken. The savings line crawls flat along the bottom, barely lifting off the floor across 3 decades. The market line starts in the exact same spot, bends upward slowly at first, then curves harder and harder, pulling away until the two are not even in the same neighborhood. The difference at the finish line is not a few percent, and it is not double. The market account ends up worth more than 6 times what the savings account holds. One decision, made once, on a single day, and never revisited, multiplied the money over 6 times over across the same 30 years. Same effort, same patience, same starting envelope. Radically different ending. So why is the gap this extreme? The answer is compounding, and specifically that compounding rewards the rate, not the effort. A higher return does not just add a little more. Each year, it multiplies more, and every single year it multiplies the already multiplied amount. That is why a small gap in the yearly rate quietly explodes into an enormous gap once you give it enough time to work. Look at that jump between the columns and it almost looks like a mistake. Push the return up to the market's long-run nominal average of around 10%, and the same $10,000 balloons to roughly $175,000 over 30 years. Nothing changed except the rate. You added no extra money, no clever trades, no perfect timing. The rate did all of it. But here is the honest catch: the reason this is not simply free money lying on the ground. The market does not climb in a straight, comforting line the way a savings balance does. It lurches. It falls, sometimes by a third or even half of its value, and it can stay down there, deep in the red, for months or even years at a stretch. That volatility is the price of admission for the return, and most people cannot pay it emotionally. The saver never once felt fear, never checked a balance with a knot in their stomach. The investor had to sit through crashes, headlines screaming collapse, their account cut in half, and simply not sell. That 76,000 only exists for the person who managed to not flinch. This is exactly why the biggest lever is not being clever. It is not spotting the perfect year to jump in or the perfect moment to jump out. It is staying broad instead of betting on one stock, and simply staying in through every scary stretch. The chart rewards decades of boring persistence, not bursts of brilliance. Time in the market beats timing the market. And the cruelest part of the savings story is the opportunity cost, the money that was never lost on paper but simply never earned. The gap between $11,600 and $76,000 is more than $64,000 that the safe choice quietly left on the table. It was never a dramatic loss. It was an invisible one, spread thin across 30 uneventful years. So the two envelopes, opened after 30 years, hold about $11,000 and about $76,000. Same money, same patience, same 30 years of leaving it alone. One different decision made on a single day. The saver felt calm and lost buying power. The investor felt fear and multiplied it. If you had to lock away $10,000 untouched for 30 years starting today, which envelope would you choose, and why?